Welcome to the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge Magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space. Few topics will be off limits, and we have some amazing guests to share with you.
Our intention is that our conversations will spark your own curiosity to create a life that lights you up and inspires you to be kind, thoughtful, open-minded to yourself and others.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m. and all podcast platforms. So, Brian, what are you curious about today?
Curiosity is in the air, as well as some pretty abundant energy. Kelly, do you want to let people know the special thing that's going to happen today?
Oh my goodness, we're just having fun. Okay, hey everybody, we're back. I know, Sundays at 2 o'clock. Kelly and Brian, pretty rockin'. Okay, so today we have Dawn Morningstar in studio with us today, and she is the co-founder of New World Women. And I've been meeting with Dawn for a couple months now and just getting to know the community, and she always starts every meeting with this beautiful centering that, as we were preparing for the show, I looked at her and I said, would you do one of your centerings for the AM 950 audience? And she said, I would love to. So everybody, get grounded, get ready. And Dawn, welcome to Being Curious with Kelly and Brian. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kelly and Brian. It is a joy to be here with the two of you. So we always start all of our meetings with what we call a sacred meeting process. And one of those steps is to become centered. And so let's go ahead and begin. If you're comfortable or able to close your eyes, go ahead and do that. And allow your body to go into a place, a posture of knowing that something special is about to happen. Focus on your breath and allow the breath to travel down, down, down into your belly. And then as you exhale, feel your shoulders relax, signaling to your body that all is well and you are safe. Now take a moment to go within to the very center of your heart. Feel the love and joy and kindness and collaboration that resides within you as you. Allow a little smile to blossom onto your face when you think of everything you're grateful for in your life. And don't cherry pick and choose just the good things. Allow yourself to feel grateful for everything that has happened in your life, because it has brought you here to this moment right now, so that you may continue to evolve and expand your consciousness. We are very grateful to be here together at this time on Earth. We know that we are here to change the world for good. The words that I have spoken on our behalf are made manifest by our divine. So it is, and so it shall be. Shanti, 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 Aho. Now you can open your eyes.
Yum.
I know, I was like, okay, and I'm done.
Let's go. Can you imagine, everyone, if you did that at least once a day?
Yes. We start every single meeting that way. And sometimes we get like a strange look, like, what are you doing? But then in subsequent meetings, people say, oh, can we do that thing again? It's lovely to connect in with universal intelligence.
Oh, well, you can change the energy.
Yes.
I mean, I know that when I was in the corporate world, and I would be brought into meetings, I'd try to go in there a little early, and I'd bring in the crystalline dimension and just kind of clear everything out. Because, you know, like conference rooms and where everybody's have boardrooms, or all these meetings, there's just a lot of emotion going on.
Yes.
So when you can go in there and energetically do a reset and then find gratitude
Yes.
Right? I love how you said, and don't just focus on the positive things.
Yeah.
Because I was focusing on the positive things, and then I pivoted and I opened it up to all the things in my life. And I was like, I am grateful. I am grateful for everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's being authentic.
Okay. That's another show altogether.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Brian, you have a question for Dawn, don't you?
There's definitely some, we could go down some roads just with that, but for the sake of our audience in this show, we do really enjoy the consistency of leading with a question, and so we will do that with you, Dawn. And the question is, what if you could look back for a moment? We love for people to really get to know who you are, because who you are is not entirely who's just showing up now. There's this entire history of you that has allowed you to show up the way you are today. And so if you could go back and try to give our audience, like, what were those moments, even in childhood or early teenage years or 20s, 30s, where you started to get curious about the things that are really showing up in your life today, like those things that allowed you to have the impact that you do and have? Can you remember some of those moments very early on where you're like, yeah, that was a significant, curious moment that kind of directed my show, your show afterwards?
Absolutely. What an excellent question.
Isn't he great?
Yes,
I told you.
yes. Thank you. So I would say that in my early childhood, I was always very curious about spiritual things. I was raised Catholic, and I remember as a little girl sitting in the church and looking up at the stained glass windows and wondering, who are these people, these different saints, and what made them become saints, and what is that all about? And then my curiosity kept growing, because then I realized there was more than Catholicism in the world. There were many different forms of spirituality, and I became curious about what they were and how they worked, and that really impacted my life for the rest of my life. I've been a seeker my entire life, and probably always will be, and I think that's important, to stay open and curious, because it keeps us fresh. But that really wound through my life. I've had, several mystical experiences in my life that really blessed me along the way. And I would say that I've really been curious about people's connection with what I think of as the divine. Some people call it nature, some people call it God, some people say universal intelligence. For me, right now I use the term divine because it seems pretty inclusive. But I've always been curious about people's relationship with the divine, and now I see that we are really probably closest to the divine when we see ourselves as one with all.
Okay. Wow. You mentioned mystical experience. Yes, very well sped. Said. It's all the same thing,
okay,
right?
I'll say it faster.
No. Do you have one of the mystical experiences that you talked about? Is there one that comes to mind that you'd like to share with our audience?
Absolutely. When I was in third grade, I went to an all-girls private Catholic school on the other side of town from where I lived. We were a very middle-class family, and this was a pretty fancy-pants school. And so I used to have to take 3 buses to get there. And remember, third grade, going through Baltimore City as a young child. But I always felt very protected and safe. And so anyway, the nuns there at the school were extremely strict if you were late at all. And it was a very punishable offense. And so on this particular day, it was rainy and snowy, and there was a long hill that I had to walk up to Mount St. Agnes. And I was trying to get up the hill, and I kept slipping and sliding, and I was nervous about being late. I was very afraid. And there was a little grotto with a statue of the Blessed Mother there. And I looked over at her, and I said, "Please help me. Please help me." And that statue smiled at me, and I felt this radiance of love. And somehow, it wasn't slippery anymore, and I was able to walk up the hill. I don't know how it happened, but I was there 1 minute before the bell rang. And so that was one of many beautiful things that have happened. And whether the statue really smiled, I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. All I know is I felt loved and connected with that feminine, divine aspect of the spiritual world through the Blessed Mother.
Oh my goodness!
Well,
it smiled.
It's such a profound sharing and obviously significant event in your life. But what really stuck out to me was that you had the courage somehow, in some capacity, to ask a question, to ask a big question.
Yes.
And then to have the experience of something happening and the awareness that there was a shift in your perspective and in your experience of what you were going through at that time. And I'm sure that led to more experiences of you asking and receiving and giving. And I think that's a very important sharing, because it's potentially one of the most important lessons for any of us to go through, which is have the courage to ask.
Yes.
We're not alone.
No,
and you
we're
probably felt very strongly that you were not alone in that moment.
That's right. That's right. And I believe that whenever we remain open, truly open and aware, there's all kinds of support around us all the time. But many times we think we have to go it alone. And that's when we can get ourselves into a little bit of a pickle, as my grandmother used to say.
Well, and I can see the third grade self running and panicking, and you're getting through the front door, and you plop down in those old school clocks,
yes.
looking at it going, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I actually feel like time was suspended in some way, because I know I was late. I already knew that, but that's not what happened.
No.
And there's so many people out there, Dawn. My dad was raised in a Catholic family, so I'm very familiar with the actual reality of the fear that you had. It wasn't just like, I'm going to be late, whatever. It was like, this is about the biggest, baddest thing that I could do right now, is not show up on time.
Yes, there will be consequences, and they will not.
There will be consequences.
Be good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So what would you say? So that was an experience that you had, in the third grade. What would be something that's happened, maybe more recently, where you've actually had the opportunity to deliver, that lesson or other lessons that you've had and accumulated throughout your life, where you could actually feel the impact of your own experience of life with either someone else or a community, or some opportunity you had to really give, the brilliant things that you've discovered in your life?
Thank you for that question. Well, I would have to say that I believe that when we are blessed with wisdom and different experiences throughout our lives, I really do believe that we are blessed so that we might be a blessing to others. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that the thing that has really felt good to me over the past, say, 15 years is when I wrote my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. It was a collection of many things I had learned along the way that I thought might be helpful to others. And it certainly has turned out that way. Excuse me. And what ended up happening was, I am so sorry. And what ended up happening was these beautiful things occurred as a result of that book. So we came together. I brought many groups of women together, and we studied the principles in that book. And that became really beautiful for me to see that in action, but it also was lovely to see women blossom open and to feel like they were really being authenticated in some way or affirmed in some way, because some of the things in my book women intuitively knew, but they didn't really feel that they could talk with anyone about that. And so that was really great. And then moving beyond Venerable Women and all those groups and classes that I taught from the book, then meeting with and co-creating with New World Women co-founders Mecca Page and Sean Vougeot, I was able to bring all of that into our co-creation. And so we start every meeting with a centering like I did. We always create from what I think of as a beautiful state. A beautiful state is where we're not in stress, we're not in fear, we're not in any of those things. We are, in fact, present, loving, really open to what's wanting to be created in the moment. We are collaborative, and so that has helped us to launch something into the world or bring something into the world that will change the lives of millions of women around the world.
Okay, well, ending with that, oh my goodness, thank you, Dawn. Hey, this is Kelly and Brian, AM 950.
Welcome back to the Being Curious Show with Kelly and Brian. We are here with Dawn Morningstar. We're having a blast. And one of the things you said, Dawn, there at the end of segment one was you used a word very close to my heart, collaboration. And I was really touched to see that you've been able to kind of tap into some of these, I think, feelings, emotions that you've seen are shared between a lot of women. And then you've created opportunities to come together to actually talk openly and authentically and in a safe space.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you've had just some extraordinary experiences with those types of conversations and events. I don't know how you do them, but I'd love for our audience to understand more of what do those experiences look like? How do you make them happen? Because I'm certainly curious.
Well, the ones that I mentioned before were up through, I would say, 3 years ago, and they were in in-person gatherings. That was before the pandemic, of course, and they were in person, and there was a year-long program, a 6-month program, all of that. And then we realized that Venerable Women wanted to become something else. It was longing to expand beyond what I was doing. And then I had the good fortune of meeting Mecca Page. And then a little bit later on, I met Sean Vougeot. And we realized that if we wanted to reach women all over the world, in-person gatherings wouldn't be, a possibility. They wouldn't be viable. Now, of course, we are having some in-person gatherings like the summer solstice coming up. But we just really felt that it was important to do something online. And so we have created an online on-demand academy for classes in 6 different areas of women's lives. And we can get into that a little bit later. But, more people became familiar and more comfortable with using Zoom. I know a lot of people don't like it. They would prefer to be in person. But I don't think it's an either or. I think it's an and. And, technology allows us to, really connect with greater audiences of people. So this online on-demand academy will be taught with live classes from top women teachers from around the world that we call luminaries, because they're sharing their light with others.
Well, this is a beautiful time to talk about New World Women. And your mission is a unique community of like-hearted women who receive financial rewards for learning and growing together, taking care of themselves, and helping others.
Yes.
Like that is curated on the best level. Like every word of that mission has power and meaning and it's just absolutely lovely. So tell us, okay, so I can see the three of you collaborating. It's pre-pandemic, and by the way, I'm a sucker for in-person events, especially after the pandemic. But I celebrate the virtual, the online, the hybrid model because we can connect with our neighbors, whether they are next door or 1,000 miles away. And I actually have a new connection that I've shared with you, Toni Lontis.
Yes.
And she is amazing and out of Australia and putting a team together of just international powerful women. So, of course, when I met Toni, I was like, she needs to meet Dawn like right away. So that was just beautiful. And I would never have had that ability to connect with Toni before the pandemic and before we put these platforms together. Okay. So talk to us about, so you and Sean and Mecca, you're talking, you're collaborating. What was the aha moment? Like, we need to do this.
Well, it's an interesting story how Sean and I met. A mutual friend of ours told Sean that if you're doing anything in regard to women's empowerment or women's self-empowerment, as I prefer to think of it, you absolutely need to talk to Dawn Morningstar. And at the time, I was so busy with coaching clients and the venerable women stuff. And at that time, Mecca and I were helping women, spiritual women business owners with their messaging and branding. We had all these things going on. And so I decided that I wasn't going to take any new appointments with anyone. I just was too busy. And so when Sean reached out to me, I literally had my hands on the keyboard to say, thank you so much, but not right now, maybe in 6 months. And I got a very different message. I got that I was supposed to meet with her immediately, and I did. So about halfway through the conversation with Sean, I immediately knew there was something special here. And I went right back to Mecca after the meeting and said, we need to connect with this woman. And so the three of us met, and within a few months, we had co-created, and incorporated New World Women.
Okay.
It was magical and meant to be. We really believe that we are all finding one another from this life, past lives, whatever it may be.
Well, we even said that when we came together today for our pre-interview.
Yes.
You're like, so just let the audience know I connected Brian and Dawn for the first time right before we went live. And he just did an event last weekend tell us a little bit more about that, Brian, because it's just, you're this beautiful man that is just so, I don't know, I'm losing words and I'm seeing pictures, which always happens when I'm around you, Brian. But tell us a little bit about the event that you did. So let's give them a little shout out.
Well, it was so fun because as I was meeting Dawn, she said a statement that was the kind of headline for an event I did last week, which was with an absolute dear friend of mine, Dr. Anita Jackson. And she has a Facebook group called Empowered Her Success. And we did an event last week where, of course, she would say it much more eloquently, but basically her mission in life is to empower women financially and in business and in relationships and mostly in themselves to be their own CEOs. And she just has this awesome vision. So, of course, I was just struck with Dawn, just in her presence and in the few, probably less than 30 words that she said. And I was, let's get you connected, because my kind of thing, Dawn, is when I know that I know that I know, when I meet someone, it's straight away, how can we get you out to the world more? That's my MO, is how can we all lock arms together to connect, create, and collaborate? Because I believe that's the currency that's going to take us. Talk about New World Women. It's like, yes, let's go for it.
I'm watching this in studio, just watching those two connect, and I'm just like, uh-huh. And anybody watching on StreamYard is probably just watching Kelly with her, like, oh my gosh, eyes in the head, like going, whoop. Yeah, I think it's just amazing. Well, that is something that I see a triad. I don't know why I'm seeing the triad, but I'm seeing the triad. Okay.
Yes.
So there's an event coming up on June 21st for all the people in the world. It is summer solstice.
Yes.
You know, before we go into the event that New World Women is doing, what is the importance of summer solstice to you? And Brian, you can jump in too, but there's something beautiful about the summer solstice and why you aligned this beautiful, and it's your first live event, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
A live event on summer solstice. Tell me more.
Well, personally, I've always felt this very ancient feel around the idea of solstice. And then when, in doing some research, finding out that solstice has been celebrated since Neolithic times in all different kinds of ways. And it's the, longest day of the year. And, for many, it was a way to look at when to plant crops and just all of this different meaning around it and this idea of light. And so that was very appealing to Mecca, Sean, and I. And then when we visited Kinstone Megalithic Garden near Fountain City, Wisconsin, it's like having our own Stonehenge right here in the Midwest.
So how did you find them?
Well, I've been hearing about it for years. And finally, I said to my friends Carol Hyder and Annette Regalo, I said, let's drive over there someday. Well, we did, and we were blown away. And I called Mecca and Sean immediately and said, we have to go there because they're about to close for the season. So we went, and on the drive there, I kept saying, we have got to meet the creator of this amazing place, Christine Beck. And I'm not sure if she's going to be there, and we don't have an appointment or anything. Well, sure enough, we walked in, and there she was. She welcomed us into her private space there on the grounds, and we met for, I think, about 2 hours. And by the end of it, we had said, we are doing our summer solstice here. And that's what happened. And it was a great celebration. And like we always say in New World Women, collaboration is queen.
Love that.
This event, like you guys, well, first of all, I have also connected with Christine and just her vibrancy, her passion.
Yes.
Is just, and then I haven't been on site, but I'm going to be at the event, and I'm so excited, but I can dial in and feel it from here. If that makes any weird, okay, good. I'm not just being crazy.
You're
Kelly.
right about that. Mm-hmm.
It is so special, and I know she's just an ambassador. I get just an ambassador of the space and the property and the land, and I know she's very excited from my conversations with her to be hosting this event and being a part of it. So, give us some information about it.
Well, I really want to give a shout out to Christine. She's lovely, and I'm so grateful that she followed her inner vision to create this amazing place. But yeah, the event really has really unfolded in such beautiful ways. It's really been with ease and grace. We haven't struggled with anything. We are going to start the day with an opening fire herb ceremony where there are 19 summer solstice herbs, and every registrant will receive a pouch of those herbs. So we start with the herb ceremony, and then Laurie Ellis Young, who is the author of Breath is Life and a total breathing expert from breathlogic.org, she is going to lead us in the heart breath ceremony where we will all connect with one another and set the energy for the day. And then we are going to have the tribal elder Al Goodhart Baker will speak during lunchtime, and we will have Annette Regalo doing dowsing, talking about dowsing, and then Michelle Ray and Nada Hogan will be teaching us about the history of labyrinths, standing right there at the magnificent labyrinth on the property. And then Jana Leah Hoffman will lead us in Native American flute, dancing and singing. And then we're having an extraordinary luncheon of all sustainable, excellent, beautiful organic foods, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free options. and it's just going to be amazing. And Sean Vougeot is a singer and violin player, and she is, for those who are early risers, even though the event starts at 11.
I was going to say, I think there's something at like 5:15 a.m., which I can't say I'm going to be there for, but it sounds amazing.
I know. So at 5:15 a.m., there's a very special place at Kensington where the sun comes up, and I think it was designed just for the summer solstice, if I'm not mistaken. And Sean is going to play violin to serenade the sun as it comes up. And it's going to be extraordinary. And we just found out that Al Baker, the tribal elder, will also be doing drumming and a blessing for the day. So it's just going to be magnificent in every way. And we are thrilled to come together in this way. And, you know, energetically, the place is amazing. It's on an elevation, and in the distance, you can see the Mississippi River. It's just extraordinary there.
Oh, my goodness. Mm-hmm. What's the drive time from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area?
About 2 hours.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone wants to stay overnight, are there accommodations? Because 5:15 is a little early for some of us.
Yes, many of us are arriving on Monday and staying at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites Winona. Winona is a 15-minute drive from there to Kensington. And if people are interested in doing that, make sure that that you say that you're with the New World Women block of rooms, and then you'll get a discount.
Oh, my goodness. It just sounds like such a fantastic day. And I almost just spilled my water everywhere. And I'm so glad I didn't. Okay, you guys. Before we start going to segment 3, I want to thank you so much for being here. Mr. Brian, you're fantastic. And we're going to jump a little deeper into the next segment on New World Women and what you guys are doing and how you're doing it, because this is just this beautiful, beautiful group that is growing. And I personally see it growing very, very quickly.
Yes.
It is Kelly and Brian, Being Curious, AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. We're so excited you're here. Thank you so much. I wish I could do the centering thing like Dawn does to like bring us out, but I'm not going to. So we're just going to let the music come in.
Just breathe.
Yeah, just breathe.
Welcome back, everyone. Kelly and Brian show, Being Curious. We are here with Dawn, Morningstar, and this has been a really special time for me because I can see that you've really developed some extraordinary opportunities for women, but I think your opportunities are for everyone. But I love that you've found some real connection specifically with the divine feminine and allowing for that to have grace and capacity and connection. And as you were sharing about New World Women, I very clearly, this question came to me, and I felt like your answer would be quite extraordinary. And so here's the question. How do you see your events, these New World Women events, how do you see them in 5 years from now? And what do you see the impact on a global scale of what you're building with New World Women?
Again, another lovely question. Thank you, Brian. I see these classes and these gatherings as really, truly meeting women where they are and helping them to get to where they want to be. So, for example, there is a woman in Israel who is a New World Women founding mother, and we'll talk about what that is in a moment. But she told me that there is a segment of the population where she lives where the women are very oppressed. And because of that, they can't really leave their homes without a male escort, and on it goes. And so she's really excited for them to have these teachings where the woman can privately go into her bedroom or whatever and get these teachings online. So that's a way to reach people that would not be able to have some of this information in other ways. And in 5 years' time, I am really dedicated to making it happen, that women will be supported in these 6 areas of their lives that we call wealth ways. The acronym WEALTH is wisdom, enjoyment, abundance, love, tranquility, and health. Because we believe that when any person is firing on all 6 of those cylinders, they're going to have a pretty darn good life. And so that's what we are committed to, is having these women teachers teaching in these areas. And some of the classes are very practical in nature. Some of them will help women just getting started in business. Some of them are things like feng shui, the Vimla process of handwriting, and beautiful offerings of all different kinds. And so that's what I see. And so because the women themselves will be doing better because of getting this information and the support from like-hearted community, their lives are going to be better. There's no doubt about that. And when women do better, so does everyone around them. And if I could just add this piece, I'm talking a lot about women, and of course the name of our business and our organization is New World Women. We're starting with women because that's our area of expertise. And we believe that because of patriarchy, women have not really advanced in many, many ways. And when women are able to be in the fullness of their being, then they can give their gifts, and that is what will change our world in even greater ways. And so it's not like some kind of a hierarchy. We don't even believe that, women should run everything. No, we don't believe that. We believe, like Rianne Eisler says, in a linking of the masculine and the feminine energies, both being respected and honored. So, in regard to power, we believe in power within and power with one another, not power over. That's the old paradigm.
Absolutely.
So well delivered. There's a real opportunity, I think, because we live in this new age of information and access to information. There's kind of this thing that's happening where, because there's so much information, there's the opportunity for like propaganda to win, or there's this opportunity for like truth to prevail. And one of these innate truths is that men and women have divine feminine and divine masculine.
Yes.
And what I'm really hearing from you is you're creating opportunity for people to start accessing both, and then to nurture both. And through that relationship, we can actually start linking arms and being a great force of collaborative good in the world.
Yes.
And that really lights me up. So I want to honor you for that.
Men are invited to the party.
Yes.
Right, Brian?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll sneak in anyway. But, just give me a drum. I'll start beating up.
Oh, that's right. At Solstice, there will be drumming as well, if I didn't mention that before.
One of my favorite curiosities, Dawn, that I actually am very grateful I started asking these questions literally as a child. I would seek out adults and I would literally just ask them, like, how did you become who you are? Or how did you get successful at this one thing? I was very attracted to people who were successful either in happiness or in finance or business. And so the question I'd love to ask for you is, especially for women out there, what would your invitation be to them as that first step to take towards these things that you've discovered in your own life and that have given you the opportunity to be in a position of influence? What would that first step be?
Well, the first step's also really important, and you might not even know you're taking the first step while you're taking the first step, if that makes any really weird sense.
Yeah, it does.
Totally.
And that's why I would answer right away that the very first step is to cultivate awareness within yourself. Constantly being aware of what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and that leads right into intuition, because then when we are really feeling aware of what's going on, that can really help us to be present and to make better decisions. A lot of times we're not even in our bodies. We're off floating somewhere, stressed out or whatever. But when we're aware, that to me is the first step. And then from there, I would say the very next thing is to begin to really trust yourself and trust your intuition. And we have to be in community. We really have to be in like-hearted community. These solo journeys, these siloed journeys that many of us have been on, they're fine for a part of the journey, but we get to a point where we really need and benefit from being in community with one another so that we can really trust ourselves more and feel heard and understood and seen.
What's interesting over you, I just see the word why, and to ask why.
Yes.
And be okay asking why.
Yes.
And it's okay to look at someone that's an expert. Let's just put air quotes around it, or a thought leader, and tell us more, or ask why. Again, I see why right above your head, going, ooh,
yeah,
okay. And that's really powerful when you give yourself permission to start going like that. And this is radio, but I'm just like having that curiosity.
Yes.
And that's what started the show. Is just like, we're just so curious. And I think if you take the approach to life, personally, professionally, in what way, and you do it from a curious, heart-centered way, people will take that and they will take the time to share with you.
Yes.
It's when you pull the ego aside and you're like, I'm just really curious about this. Tell me more. No matter where you are in the world, but to be able to be that heart-centered person, just say, tell me more.
Yes.
People will just open up and talk to you.
Yes.
Like sometimes you have a hard time getting them quiet, right? Because you're truly curious, but you can pull these beautiful nuggets.
Absolutely.
And then going into that awareness and all these other different, that's just beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, and curiosity, I have a whole chapter in my book about curiosity and using curiosity in place of judgment.
Brian, write that down. I'm just kidding.
Someone put that on a bumper sticker right now.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Well, and there's such significance there because I think we just touched on, again, one of these things that potentially can be a total game changer for anyone, which is curiosity and awareness allow for the self-discovery of, like, where do you want to go?
Yes.
Like, where is, like, your map in life, if you actually put out a destination, you're far more likely to get there, right? And I was reading a book that was just stacked with all this kind of like scientific data, and it really honed down to, like, the one thing you don't want to do in life is drift. Like, if you're drifting, you're potentially losing all opportunity to actually achieve, let's say, happiness or success. Or, I mean, just think about it. If you're like drifting, how could you possibly find a significant partner? Or if you're drifting, how could you possibly achieve a goal? Because you're not going towards it. You're just moving kind of without direction.
Well, that's beautiful.
And so
I'm sorry.
No, I love what you just shared about, curiosity, what you were both saying about curiosity and awareness, because I think if you take on those two things, you're giving yourself the best shot to actually find something that lights you up and that you could set, so to speak, your sail towards.
Yes. It's as though we are maybe becoming aware and committing to living our lives as a spiritual vision. A spiritual vision is different than a goal. A goal is always in the future. A spiritual vision is something that we hold tenderly, that we want to bring to the world using our specific gifts to do that. And when we stay aligned with that, from that beautiful state, there is no drifting, because you are constantly on that beautiful path to creating that thing that's in your heart. And when each of us does that, that's how we're able to truly impact our world for good.
Oh, gosh, yes. Okay, so pre-interview, we talked about the feminine wound around money and power.
Yes.
And before we wrap the show up, we have a couple minutes left. I really wanted to touch on that because it's been kind of floating over all of us as a bubble.
Yes.
And I have this beautiful feeling that you're going to be able to give our listeners just a little nugget on that one. And then how do people get involved with New World Women?
Yes. Well, New World Women was really inspired by three things. One is the idea of learning new things, because we all love to learn new things when we're on these journeys, right? We love staying inspired together. We love being in community. So we knew those pieces were helpful to people. And, I think of the learning and the inspiration as one.
Yep.
I kind of think of those as one. And then the community is the second one. And the third one is a path to prosperity. And that's the thing that's different. And that will help to heal that feminine wound around money and power. That's why we chose the word wealth, because we knew women were uncomfortable with it. So we wanted to show that wealth comes in many forms: wisdom, enjoyment, abundance, love, tranquility, and health. It's not just money.
Nope.
Although money's very important. And so that's why we designed New World Women to have a component where we actually financially reward women for doing good things for themselves, for helping others, for learning new things. There is nothing else like this in the world. We have created something that did not exist before. And so that is what brings joy to our hearts, and that's how we are contributing to this change that we want to see in the world.
That's fantastic. Okay, Dawn.
Well,
Sorry.
I was just going to say quickly, the beautiful
Brian.
full circle is that you've actually created a practical access point
Yes.
for women around the world to do what happened to you in the third grade.
Oh, you're
Where
right.
you
Thanks
had
for
to-
tying
You
that
had to
back.
tie that in. That is so. You are so cool.
Yeah, you are.
So I just love that you've taken something that happened at a moment in time in your life, and now you've created the opportunity to do it on a global scale.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for seeing that.
I'm going to not look at any statue differently. I'm like, they're all going to be smiling at me now just because of you. I think that's fantastic. How do people get involved with New World Women?
NewWorldWomen.com. It's as simple as that.
Okay, that's easy.
NewWorldWomen.com. And we really hope to see all of you at the summer solstice. It's going to be a day to remember.
Okay, so newworldwomen.com, go to events,
Yep,
and then
and
that'll
there
be
it
the
is.
2022 solstice event. When is the deadline to sign up?
June 13th, so it's coming up.
Okay, so that is going to be the tomorrow after the show
Yes.
Airs.
Yes.
I think we've said a lot. This is fantastic.
Yes.
On behalf of Brian, this is Kelly of Kelly and Brian Being Curious with Dawn Morningstar, New World Women, newworldwomen.com. Say that 5 times really, really fast. Thank you so much. This is such a great show. We are so blessed that you're listening to us. Thank you. Mahalo.